Hello, dears, how are you? We, the humans, we are made up of emotions. We are, emotions does play a very, very important role in our lives. Emotions are a factor which influences, affects our life from every side, from every angle. So we cannot afford to ignore the emotions at all. Rather, we need to understand. We need to understand it on the one hand, and we need to manage it on the other hand. Today, we have taken one specific emotion, which is the emotion of fear, and we are going to talk about on the emotion of fear from different angles, and we need to understand it. A fearful mindset is a state of being characterized by excessive and persistent fear, anxiety, or apprehension. It's a mental attitude that perceives threats or dangers even when they are not persistent, even when they are not present. This mindset can be debilitating, affecting daily life, affecting relationships, and affecting overall well being. Now, that is something very basic about the fears. Now, we are going to talk about the types of fears, what types of fears there are. And there are four major types of the fears. The first one is rational fears based on real threats or real dangers like fear of snakes, like the fear of heights. So these are called rational fears. It is the type 1, and the type 2 is that are irrational fears, the fears which are not rational at all, like unfounded, excessive fears, for example, fear of failure, for example, fear of rejection. Now, the third type of fear, so these are called phobias. Phobias, intense, persistent fears of specific objects or specific situations, that these are called phobias. Intense, persistent fears of specific objects or specific situations. The fourth type of fears, these are very common, and that is anxiety disorders. Anxiety disorders. So, what is this, by the way? It is conditions like generalized disorder or social anxiety. Conditions like generalized disorder or social anxiety. So, this type of fears are called anxiety disorders. Now, we talked about what are the basic types of fears, which are of four kinds. Now, we are going to talk about the impact of these fears, or the impact of a fearful mindset on our lives. What are the impacts of the fears on our lives? So, these are the five major types of impacts on our lives. The number one, it is emotional distress. Number one, fear can lead to anxiety, fear can lead to depression, and of course, emotional turmoil. So, it is emotional distress. Number two, the second major impact of emotion of fears on our life, it is physical health. Chronic fear can cause hypertension. Chronic fears can cause cardiovascular disease and weakened immune system. Chronic fear can cause hypertension, cardiovascular disease, and weakened immune system. So these are the major diseases. Dangerous indeed. Hypertension is dangerous. Cardiovascular diseases are dangerous. Weakened immune system mean attack from many sides on our health. Now the third major impact of a fearful mindset on our lives, it is that it does affect our relationships. Fearful individuals may struggle with the intimacy, may struggle with the trust, and with the social connections as well. The social connections and the intimacy, building of the trust, all of these get severely affected negatively by our fearful mindset. Now we are going to talk about the fourth type of major negative impact of the fears on our life. It is the career and the productivity. Fear can hinder decision making on the one hand, creativity on the other hand, and overall performance as well. Now it is the career and productivity which gets negatively affected a lot. The fifth type of negative impact of the fears upon our life is, it is the daily life get affected. How? Fearful mindset can lead to avoidance behavior. Fearful mindset can lead to avoidance behaviors, limiting experiences and opportunities. Fearful mindset can lead to avoidance behaviors, limiting experiences, and opportunities as well. Now we need to understand what are the common fears and their impact on our day to day life. What are the common fears and their impact on our day to day lives? So these are the five type of fears. Number one, it is the fear of failure. Holds people back from taking risks and pursuing goals. Holds people back from taking risks and pursuing goals. Number two, it is fear of rejection. It leads to the social anxiety and difficulty in forming relationships. The second type of common fear is fear of rejection, leads to social anxiety and difficulty in forming relationships. Number three, common fear, fear of change. It causes resistance to growth, adaptation, and progress. Fear of change causes resistance to growth, to adaptation, and to progress as well. Now, the fourth type of common fear affecting our day to day life, it is the fear of loss, which leads to attachment, which leads to possessiveness, and which leads to anxiety as well. Fear of loss leads to attachment, leads to possessiveness, and leads to anxiety. The fifth type of common fear affecting our day to day life, it is the fear of being alone. Fear of being alone, which causes clinginess, which causes codependency, and which causes social anxiety. Fear of being alone causes clinginess, causes codependency, and causes social anxiety. So we talked about what is meant by the fears, what are the common types, what are the four major fears, and what is the impact of these fears upon our life. Then we spoke about what are the common fears affecting our day to day life. Now we are going to talk about, it is overcoming fearful mindset. Overcoming fearful mindset. So the number one is acknowledge and accept. Acknowledge and accept. Recognize and accept your fears. Number one, recognize and accept your fears. So that is how we can overcome the fears. Number two, Identify triggers. This is identifying what triggers your emotions. Identifying what triggers your emotions. So that is the second thing which we can do for the purpose of controlling, overcoming our emotion. Fear, emotions of fear. Number three, it is reframing perspectives. Reframe perspectives by challenging negative thoughts. Reframe the fears in a positive light. Reframe perspective by challenging negative thoughts, by reframing the fears in a positive light. And now, the fourth way to overcome these fears, it is building self confidence. How can we do that? By developing self assurance through achievements and through success. It is develop self assurance through achievements and through success as well. So that is called building self confidence. Now, the fifth and the last way to overcome these fears is that seeking support. Consult a therapist. Sport groups are trusted individuals. Consult a therapist, consult a sport group, or consult the trusted individuals. So that is, these are the five ways to overcome a fearful mindset. Now the next step is, the next step is that what to do about all that. The sixth way to overcome the fearful mindset, it is practice relaxation techniques. Practicing relaxation techniques like meditation, like deep breathing. So now the seventh way to overcome the fearful mindset, it is that taking small steps. Take small steps. Gradually face fears. Gradually face fears, and building courage and resilience. Facing our fears gradually does build the fear, that does build the resilience, and does build the fear in ourselves, does build the courage in ourselves as well. Now the eighth and the last way to overcome these fears, it is focus on the present. Focusing on the present, which is called mindfulness. Concentrate on the present moment rather than worrying about the future. Concentrate on the present moment rather than worrying about the future. Now, there are certain strategies for managing the fear. Strategies. We are talking about the strategies to manage our fears. The number one strategy, it is called mindfulness and meditation. It is regular mindfulness practice reduces fear and reduces anxiety as well. Regular mindfulness practice reduces fear and anxiety. What is mindfulness? It is a state of mind achieved by consciously focusing one's awareness on the present moment while calmly acknowledging and accepting one's thoughts, one's feelings, and bodily sensations, all that without any sort of judgment. So, strategies for managing the fears, number one, it is mindfulness and meditation. Regular mindfulness practice reduces fear and anxiety. Number two, cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. It helps reframe, it helps reframe negative thought patterns, the CBT. For that, we may have to contact a therapist. Now, the third is exposure therapy. What is the exposure therapy? Gradual exposure to feared situations or feared objects, that is called exposure therapy, but it must be done gradually, little by little, bit by bit, so that we could absorb it. And now the fourth strategy for managing the fear, it is called journaling. highly effective and very simple. Writing down your thoughts, your feelings, your experiences, your reflection on the experiences. Writing down our thoughts, our feelings, our experiences, and all that for the purpose of processing and releasing, processing and releasing the emotions. But remember, we don't have to get it published at all. We don't have to save it for the rest of our life at all. We can simply write down and destroy it at the same time. Journaling, it is writing down thoughts and feelings to process and release emotions. Now, the fifth type of strategy, the fifth strategy to overcome, to manage these emotions, it is physical activity. And regular exercise reduces stress and reduces anxiety. It is the physical activity like walking, jogging, running, gym, aerobics, yoga, whatever you can do comfortably, adopt it. Now it is the sixth type of strategy. The sixth strategy to manage the emotions, it is the social sport. And surround yourself with the sportive, with the encouraging individuals. Social sport, surrounding yourself with the sportive, with the encouraging individuals. Now the seventh strategy, the seventh item of the strategy, it is self compassion. What is the self compassion? Practice self kindness and understanding and patience. It is like anytime a very loved one, a dear person, fails or suffer a setback. So what we do is we don't criticize them harshly at all. Rather, we talk to them, we encourage them, we support them so that they bounce back, they restart their walk again, so that they stand up on their own feet again. So we want them to recover, we want them to bounce back. For that reason, we don't criticize them harshly at all. Rather, what we do is that we support them, we encourage them, we treat them with a kind heartedly, we treat them with a compassion. In the same manner, we do have to practice the self compassion, practice self kindness, understanding, and patience. Now, the eighth and the last item of the strategy, the strategic way to overcome or to manage our emotions, the emotions of fear, it is the professional help. Professional help. Consult a therapist, consult a counselor, or consult a psychologist. It is professional help. Consult a therapist, consult a counselor, or consult a psychologist. So these are the eight ways, the strategic eight ways to manage our emotions, emotions of fear. Now there are certain reminders, and these reminders are very important indeed. We need to keep reminding ourselves of five important items. The number one, it is fear, which we need to remind ourselves. It is fear is natural. It's a normal human emotion. That is what we need to remind ourselves. Number two, which we need to remind ourselves, it is fear can be managed. Fear can be managed with the right strategies and with the sport. Fear can be managed. Number three, growth happens outside comfort zone. Growth happens outside comfort zone. Face fears to grow and to develop. Growth happens outside the comfort zone. That is what we need to remind ourselves. Face fears to grow and to develop. Now, the fourth item which we need to keep reminding ourselves, it is self care is essential. Self care is essential. Prioritize physical, emotional, and mental well being. Prioritize physical, emotional, and mental well being. The fifth and the last item, which we need to keep reminding ourselves, that is seek help when needed. Seeking of help when it is needed. Don't hesitate to reach out for the support. Don't hesitate to reach out for the support. Now remember, Please remember that overcoming fearful mindset takes time, it takes patience, and of course, it takes effort. Be gentle with yourself and don't hesitate to seek help when it is needed. So, my dear friends and fellows, I think let's have a 1 minute revision. 1 minute revision of all the items. So it is the a fearful mindset is the state of being characterized by excessive and persistent fear, anxiety, or apprehension. It's a mental attitude that perceives threats or dangers even when they are not present. This mindset can be debilitating, affecting our daily life, affecting our daily relationships, and of course, affecting our overall well being. Now, there are types of fear. The fear number one is rational fears based on the real threats. Number two, it is irrational fears. Number three, it is phobias. Number four, it is the anxiety disorder. Now, there are impact of these fears upon our life. There are impact number one is emotional distress. Impact number two is physical health suffering. Impact number three is relationships. Impact number four is career and productivity. Impact number five is the day to day life. Now, there are common fears and their impact upon our life. The fear of failure is a common one. Fear of rejection is a very common one. Fear of change is a very common one. Fear of loss is a very common one. Fear of being alone is a very common one. Now, there are ways to overcome. The way number one is acknowledge and accept. The way number two is identify triggers. The way number three is reframe perspective. The way number four is build self confidence. The way number five is seek support. The way number six is practice relaxation techniques. The way number seven is take small steps. The way number eight is focus on the present. And now there are strategies for the management of these fears. That is, number one strategy is mindfulness and meditation. Number two strategy is cognitive behavioral therapy. Number it is like reframing negative thought patterns. Number three, it is the third strategy is exposure therapy. The fourth strategy is the journaling. The fifth strategy is the physical activity. The sixth strategy is the social sport. The seventh strategy is the self compassion. The eighth strategy is the professional help. And now there are certain important reminders as well. Fear is natural. Number one reminder. Growth happens outside the comfort zone. The reminder number two. The third reminder is that it is fear can be managed. The fourth reminder is self care essential. The fifth reminder is seek help when the needed. I think it is all can be done a lot because there are people who have done it. We can do it as well. If at all any of our loved one or we ourselves are suffering from it, I think it can be managed well. So that is all from me today. Thank you very much.